Okay, gentlemen, welcome to a new semester in Yeshiva Rabbeinu Yitzchak Al-Hanan. We'll be learning Be'ezrat Hashem this semester the halachot of milchama, the laws of war in IBC. Given the current state of the world that we live in, milchemet charvot barzel is on everybody's mind every day, as it should be. And a lot of the times we are faced with the questions of what is the proper way to wage a war? What should we do? What should we not do? What should Am Yisrael do next in the wake of literally every day's changing situation? And therefore, the opportunity is ripe for us to explore what does the Torah have to say about war. So let's discuss, Be'ezrat Hashem, what we're going to talk about this semester. We're going to discuss the halachot of war in general, and then how they relate Be'ezrat Hashem to Milchemet Charbot Barzel. The goals of this course, essentially, is that the assumption, the clearly stated assumption, is that the Torah has something to say about everything. And now we're going to see Be'ezrat Hashem, what does the Torah have to say about how to conduct a war? And we'll Be'ezrat Hashem see. So we have to define, well, what are the halachot that do relate to war? What are the different categories of halachot that relate to war? So if we were sitting in class, I would ask you for some ideas, given this is just a chazara of the class time. I'll just say it out there for you that we have different categories. We have tefillah when at war. We have Shabbat. A soldier has to keep Shabbat a little bit differently than a regular person does. We have the halachot of kashrut. How to keep the holidays. How do you read the Megillah in Azah? How do you write menorah in Azah, etc. And then we have the actual rules of warfare. How does one conduct a war? What is a soldier allowed to do? What is he not allowed to do? When do we bomb? When do we not bomb? Espionage and the like. And that's why I want to really flesh out some of the questions that need to be addressed, such as if someone is taken hostage, bar minan, is he allowed to commit suicide in captivity? What are the rules of collateral damage? Besieging Gaza, land for peace, civilian casualties, torturing civilians for info, prisoner exchanges, a mandatory draft. What are the limits of espionage? What happens if there's friendly fire? And the rules of identifying victims, zihui chalalim, taking spoils, hostage swaps, prisoner swaps, same idea essentially. Brutality, endangering our soldiers, to what extent that's okay. These are some of the questions that we have to address, and I'm looking forward to the other things that you might point out I might have missed here as well, Be'ezrat Hashem. Now, as everything, we always have to ask, what are our sources? Now, last I checked, there is no chelik in Shulchan Aruch called Hilchot Milchamot. So we're going to have to discuss, Be'ezrat Hashem, there weren't any Jewish waged wars for about 1800 years, from Bar Kokhba and on. And before that, there weren't too many either. So, and we didn't really have a Medina, we didn't have a state, a kingdom for many years. Until recently, in the 20th century, we received Medinat Israel, and now we began this discussion of, how do we manage having our own country, our own army, our own state, and all of the economic and legislative and military issues that come with that. And that's what led many great thinkers of the past century to really grapple with these questions of Hilchot Milchama. So we were going to look, Be'ezrat Hashem, to more modern Sefarim, at the very least, to be able to come to a clear understanding of what are the halachot relevant to our times. One of the primary sources, one of the major sources, the oldest sources of the 19th century, the 20th century that we're going to discuss is Rav Kook. Rav Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Kook was the first chief rabbi of Israel, Rosh Yeshivat Merkaz Harav, a profound thinker, whose thoughts have moved, many of the past generations, and have certainly led the way for the Dati Lomi, Tzioni Dati world to proliferate in Eretz Yisrael. Along with Rav Kook and his Sefer Mishpat Kohen and other things that he's written, is also one of his successors, Rav Shaul Yisraeli. Rav Yisraeli was the Rosh Yeshivat Merkaz Harav. He was a Dayan of the Beit Din Rabbani Gadol in Yerushalayim. He was the Nasi of Eretz Chemda and the author of a number of Sefarim, including Mishpatei Shaul, which is a collection of letters and teshuvot, much of which has to do with the army and the Medina and stuff like that. So there is a lot that Rav Shaul Yisraeli has added to the world of the thought of state-level Judaism that we have to take into account, Be'ezrat Hashem. Certainly, Chacham Ovadia Yosef was the Rishon LeZion, author of many, many Sefarim, someone whose opinion must be taken into account. That said, he didn't write that much about the Medina, but what he wrote is important and will Be'ezrat Hashem discuss. There are so many Sefarim and new editions even of them. I know they won't really fit on this slide, so we're just going to move on. Now, Chacham Ovadia was also chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, and when he was in Tel Aviv and when he was in charge of the Medina, he had a partner, Rav Shlomo Goren, who was the liberator of the old city of Yerushalayim and the Kotel. The famous picture of the rabbi blowing the shofar of the Kotel, the Six-Day War. That's Rav Goren. He was chief rabbi of Israel, chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, chief rabbi of the army. Rav Goren was a thinker, not necessarily a mainstream thinker, but nonetheless, his Sefer Meshiv Milchama is important for our study, and therefore we will, Be'ezrat Hashem, include some of his teachings as well. Now, if our own times, our own contemporaries, our own rabbinic faculty in yeshiva, Rabbi Bleich, Moreno Rabbeinu, Rosh HaKolel, Harav Yehuda David Bleich, J. David Bleich, was a rabbi of the Yorkville Synagogue in the East Side, and the Rosh Kol in YU, professor of law in Cardozo, Jewish law in Cardozo, but also the author of Contemporary Halachic Problems, among many other works, where he is certainly a voice that we have to consider in terms of how to wage a war in halacha. After him, Moreno Rabbeinu, Rav Shechter, Rosh HaKol, Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Shechter, was a Talmud of Rav Soloveitchik, author of about 6 different Sefarim, 3 about the Rav Soloveitchik, 3 of his own. The one that we need most of all is Be'ikvei Hatzon, where he discusses the Medina and its wars, that we, Be'ezrat Hashem, will be studying Rav Shechter's works, and potentially even hearing from Rav Shechter in person, Be'ezrat Hashem. Rav Asher Weiss is a well-known posek in Aveitin in Yerushalayim, Chodesh, the author of a popular set of Sefarim called Minchat Asher on many different topics, and someone who is often consulted when it comes to the matters of the Milchama. Be'ezrat Hashem will be taking into Rav Asher Weiss's views into account as well, as much as we can get our hands on them. They're not really so available about this Milchama. Rav Shmuel Eliyahu, Ben Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, was chief rabbi of Sifat, and just recently put out this seemingly great book, Hilchot Milchama V'Shalom. I hope to get my hands on it so we can use it. Moriv Rabbi Rav Zechariah ben Shlomo is a Taimani Rav and Posek in Sha'avim Modi'in, the author of Hilchot Sava, Orot HaHalacha. It's a fantastic sefer that I know Rav ben Shlomo very well for many years. And he's someone who's often consulted by soldiers and the like about what has a Tzvai type personality, what the halacha says about what they should do. And similarly, Rav Rimon is a well-known posek, Rosh Yeshiva, and leader of Jewry today, especially in the Gush. Rav Rimon is certainly someone whose views on the war are very important, as he's asked oftentimes about what to do in certain situations, and he also has a little book called Hilchot Halacha Mimekora series about the Tzava. These are all contemporary people, and there are other Sefarim that we'll discuss Be'ezrat Hashem when we actually discuss them. This is just a sampling. There are other people who came later and collected things or their own opinions. Whatever it is, it's important to realize, though, of course, they didn't make it up. So where did they get it from? No, it's not in the Shulchan Aruch. There's no Masechet Milchama in the Gemara. So what's the first place to look? We want to learn about how to wage a war according to the Torah. Well, the answer is the Torah. That's where you're supposed to look. And in the Tanakh, there are so many wars and battles and halachot in Tanakh that we have to keep them in mind. Such as number 1, Parashat Shofetim and Kitei Seh, where it talks about Mishruach Melchama, who is exempt from war, how to handle killing the opposing nation citizens, exterminating the 7 Canaanite nations, divisions of spoils, destroying fruit trees, and besieging a city, Eshrifat Toar. Obviously, that's not everything. And the answer is because there's much more than just the basic halachot in the Tanakh. There's also all the stories and their takeaways. And that's why I really want to introduce you to our first homework, which is really a very easy homework, is to find Mein Tanakh for episodes of battles and skirmishes and wars. And I want you to list 10 of them and tell me at least the takeaways of 6 of them. What can we learn from here about how we should wage war? For example, Gideon had a massive army he was going to go and fight with, and Hashem said, no, knock it down to 300, and then they went and they won the battle. What does that show you about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what he wants us to do when it goes to war? I'll give you a hint. The answer is not that non-conventional tactics sometimes win? The answer is that if you trust in Hashem and He tells you what to do, you listen to Him, then you'll win. Right? And the war in Ai, when the Jewish people lost because Achan had stolen from Yericho. And you see how even one person's laviras can inhibit the entire nation from succeeding and cause them to lose a battle. These are important things to keep in mind. You can use any tools available to you, ChatGPT, whatever you want. It doesn't mean you're going to get good answers from it. At least read what you submit before you submit it. But that's the basic idea of the first homework. Be'ezrat Hashem. Now, just a quick discussion of the course structure. There isn't that much to this course. You better be here. You better participate. And and do your assignments, and you'll easily get an A. You can read this all in the syllabus. You have assignments every single week. Plagiarism is not allowed. There is a no phone, laptop, tablet device policy. If you're using it, you're marked absent. If you have it on your desk, you're marked absent. Take notes by hand. I'll give you all the sources. Don't worry about it. Same thing with attendance. We take this very seriously here. If you're absent for 5 minutes or more, forget it. Whether you leave at the beginning of the class, end of the class, middle of the class, you're marked absent. Just don't do it. Come on time. Be here. This matters. And this is a politics-free zone. We're not interested in what your views on about whether or not we should rally for the government, against the government. This is a class where we are learning Torah. Nothing else matters. I don't care what you think about anybody. I only care about what the Torah has to say. What color your kippah is, what color you think that my kippah should be, is totally irrelevant. Whether you are pro going to the army, anti going to the army, matters only in as much as you can prove it from the halacha. I don't care about anything else. That's for outside of the classroom. Please keep the politics out and the Torah in. A little bit about myself. I'm a Talmid of Rav Shechter for many years. B'chasdei Hashem Yitbarach. I've had so many years to live and learn in yeshiva and teach in yeshiva now as well, Baruch Hashem. And you're always welcome to reach out to me. And Be'ezrat Hashem, as much as possible, we'll try to keep YU Torah updated with summaries, with Chazara Shiurim of the course Be'ezrat Hashem. I'm currently learning the Kol Lehora under Rabbi Bleich. And Baruch Hashem, it's a big zechut to be learning this sugya with you this semester now. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen v'amen.